to NFL Total Access and welcome to my apartment. I'm your host, Colleen Wolfe, and we have a packed show for you today. Steve Smith Sr. and Coach Brian Billick are with us for the next hour. We have head coach Bill O'Brien catching up with us. He sits down with Willie McGinnis to talk about silencing those critics. But first, we begin with Odell Beckham Jr. So look, his first year in Cleveland, not really the fireworks that were anticipated. Beckham, who underwent surgery in January for a hip and groin injury, is taking this time right now to get his body right so he can be on top of his game. He posted a video on YouTube saying this, quote, "Right now, what I'm trying to do is just hit the reset button." He went on to say, "This is probably going to be one of my best seasons. Bigger, stronger, faster. This is my time." So we welcome in Steve Smith Sr. and Coach Brian Billick, who appears to have done some serious spring cleaning to his background, but that's neither here nor there. Let's start here with what Odell Beckham Jr. had to say. He's making declarations at this point. So, Steve, do you think his numbers will reflect that once they play in Cleveland?
It's hard to argue with that statement because all the teams have opened up now, starting having these Zoom meetings, these virtual meetings. And so he is seeing what the promise and the opportunity for this offense to be. And Kevin Stefanski, his effect on this offense is running the ball effectively. And when they commit to running the ball effectively, this type of offense, it just opens up for deep passes for a guy like Odell Beckham to catch the ball in the open field, 30, 40 yards, right? And can you imagine an Odell Beckham refreshed, recharged, and company, that wide receivers crew for the Cleveland Browns? Man, they could be dangerous. So I can see why he's excited, and I'm excited to watch it and get prepared for it, obviously, after the everything starts going.
Yeah, with OBJ, no one's ever questioned his work ethic. He has always been a worker, and he has a great opportunity because of some of the maturity issues and obviously the huge disappointment in Cleveland last year where they were the darlings of the NFL. He has a chance with a new coaching staff to put all of that behind him. Yeah, that was their fault. He can come in with this new offense, play as brilliantly as we know he's capable of doing, and can put all that behind him. There's no reason. The maturity factor is obviously an issue. His quarterback has to have some maturity as well, but if they come in together, obviously very focused on wanting to connect and be the connection we thought they were going to be, there's no reason why they can't be the team that everybody thought they were going to be and why he can't have his best season ever.
Yeah, obviously the touchdowns weren't there for him last year, but he did have over 1,000 yards receiving, so another year with Baker to develop that chemistry and the new coaching staff, that should all help. But let's go to Odell Beckham's former quarterback here, Eli Manning. He handed over the starting job, obviously, to first-round pick Daniel Jones last season, but that doesn't mean the dynamic was perfect for the rookie quarterback. Eli was a guest of SiriusXM Radio Monday and said this year will be even better for Daniel Jones because of the mere fact that Eli's officially out of the building.
I think it'll be easier this year for him to kind of step up as that leader. Last year was probably awkward for him, me being there, me being in meeting rooms and just kind of the whole dynamic. I think, me being gone and him just, he is the quarterback. He's the guy for him just to have that control and the authority over receivers and offensive line. I think he's proven to be tough and work hard. He's done all the right things. He has kind of gone in that approach of keeping his head down and not saying more than he has to and working hard and earning the respect from the teammates. And I think now he can elevate that where he's now he's in charge.
So, Coach, do you agree with what Eli had to say there? Is Daniel Jones about to shine because partially Eli's out of the building?
Well, he's going to have that opportunity, and Eli's exactly right. because of the respect that Daniel Jones was going to have for Eli Manning, even when Daniel Jones was starting, he was going to be deferential to Eli Manning. And you got to know there were certain parts of the locker room that still obviously lean towards Eli Manning. But this is clearly going to be his team. And that's a huge advantage. Day one, he's going to be able to be the face and the personality of this team. Now, the fact that we're in this unique situation and the fact that this is going to be more slow in developing is certainly going to be a factor, but not to have that specter of Eli Manning hanging over his shoulder. Even though Eli Manning did it in the most professional, classy way that you can, it certainly is going to give Daniel Jones a chance to be the face and put his footprint on this organization.
Coach, when you talk about his footprint, I have to speak and tell you this. You need to lower your expectations, not because you don't have a very good team or good players, but because of the condense and the effect of COVID-19. And also, here's the other things. There are going to be a lot of moving pieces. One, you have the new head coach, Joe Judd, who is his first time being an NFL head coach. He has to also implement his system, implement what kind of team the New York Giants will be moving forward and beyond. And that is not going to be done overnight. That is going to take some time. Understanding who does what well, who does not do what well. And then also, too, it's really we're hearing about 4 to 5 weeks until the week one starts, whenever that starts. So you're not just going to roll out of bed with a new head coach, new offense coordinator, new this, new that, and then just all of a sudden, because you're Daniel Jones and you are now replacing Eli Manning, that is just going to be instant success. There's a lot of new moving parts. And so, hey, New York Giants fans, just take it easy and just be a little bit patient because it's going to take its time.
Patience, it is a virtue. And Steve, you did mention, hey, the NFL season, like what? It's hopefully right around the corner with week one. But guess what, guys? We're going to find out very soon, Thursday, actually, what the NFL schedule is actually going to look like, because it is the schedule release. Rich Eisen and I will usher in the good news with Kurt Warner, Michael Irvin, Steve Mariucci, Deion Sanders, and Steve White, as we give fans a first look at the entire regular season schedule with an in-depth analysis of every team and all of the divisions. Don't miss the 2020 NFL schedule release presented by Verizon. That's coming your way this Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern, right here on NFL Network, as we bring in Ian Rappaport here to talk about the schedule release. You got any nuggets for me here? Can you give me a hint on what's going to happen?
Well, the one thing that everybody wants to know, Colleen, is how is the NFL schedule for 2020 going to be affected by the coronavirus, this pandemic, which has, of course, taken over our country? It's not going to look different at all. In fact, it's going to start on time. They're going to announce it's going to start September 10th. It's going to end with the Super Bowl on February 7th. Just from first glance, the schedule is basically going to be normal. Everything the NFL has done, every bit of planning has been about having the season start on time. Now, obviously, if there are adjustments to be made with timing or anything else, as we saw in the draft with the virtual draft, the NFL will make of it. As of now, they are absolutely planning for a regular schedule on time. They are doing a couple things behind the scenes just to prepare for having football in 2020. They're going over protocols for how it is going to be at a stadium for fans, for players, for media members, support staff. What is going to need to be in place for everyone to actually arrive at stadiums? They're doing the same thing for how to reopen facilities, just preparing for when the entire NFL gets a go call for whenever that is.
A lot of stuff can change, of course, but we're excited for the schedule release. I can't wait to see the Thursday night schedule. It feels like Seattle is always in the mix for that. And that is true, too, for Marshawn Lynch with Seattle. What are the chances that we're going to see those two back together again?
Well, there is at least a chance that Marshawn Lynch, 34 years old, is back in an NFL uniform again, out of retirement again. And of course, last year made a late season cameo with the Seahawks. Didn't quite look like his old self, but certainly was working himself back into shape before their season ended. He told Scott Van Pelt recently that his agent, Doug Henderson, has had conversations with the Seahawks about potentially returning. Nothing is imminent, but the door is open. And the reason why Seattle's been looking at adding a veteran back that fits their style. Rashad Penny's coming off a torn ACL. Chris Carson, their starter, coming off a hip fracture. They drafted DJ Dallas in the mid-rounds, but they might need a little veteran heft. Marshawn Lynch is always ready for football. So yes, this is at the least a possibility for Seattle.
Yeah, that position right now is pretty deep, but we thought the same thing last year until all of the season-ending injuries to Chris Carson, CJ Prosise, Rashad Penny, and then look what happened with Marshawn. So who knows? Look, your best ability is your availability, and that has been so true for Marshawn. And you too, Ian. Thanks. In 2019, the Cowboys and the Ravens were the only offenses with more than 400 yards a game. The Ravens turned theirs into the Texans, of course, looking to do what the Chiefs did last season. Here's a look at their draft under Bill O'Brien, addressing the defense early there. Our Willie McGinnis dialed up Houston's head coach and GM to discuss the draft, DeAndre Hopkins, and the Texans' COVID-19 relief efforts.
We're joined now by head coach and GM of the Houston Texans, Coach Billy O'Brien. Coach, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, Willie. Appreciate you having me on the show.
Speaking about doing well, man, yourself, the players, staff, the organization, ownership, you guys have given almost $1.7 million to combat this COVID-19 and to give back to the communities. Talk about some of the things you guys have done.
Yeah, I think all of that starts with the McNairs, Janice McNair and Cal McNair. Willie, I mean, you've been down here several times. You've met Cal. You knew Bob McNair. I mean, these are incredible people relative to the community of Houston. The McNairs gave $250,000 to the Houston Food Bank. Colleen and I gave $100,000 to Houston Food Bank. Can't go any further without talking about a bunch of players. Deshaun Watson, Justin Reed, Whitney Merciless, J.J. Watt followed up with a few days later. He donated $350,000 to the Houston Food Bank. A.J. Moore, Keon Crossan, Bradley Roby, Carlos Watkins, John Weeks, all of these guys have given to charities and COVID relief funds around the city and their hometowns. It's just it's incredible. I appreciate you asking, and sorry for the long answer there, but it's incredible what this organization has done, led by Janice and Cal.
Not only is it incredible, man, it's amazing that you guys have been giving back in the players and everybody's gotten so involved. And talking about getting involved, your son Jack had a sweet moment during the draft where he had a sign up and he was thanking the frontline people and, just got his little moment to shine, man. How important was that? With Jack and being with your family during the draft, and your first time as a virtual draft as a GM and head coach.
Yeah, it was a great moment. I think that my son Michael, my youngest son, he's around the team a lot. He comes to practice when he can, and my oldest son Jack is not able to do that. So to be able to involve my oldest son Jack in the draft like that, and for ESPN to put that on there, that was pretty cool.
Talking about the draft, Coach, you went defense heavy. 3 out of the 4 picks were defensive guys, man. It seemed like you tried to fortify to get J.J. Watt some help over there.
Yeah, I think the way that it fell at the 40th pick, we felt like really fortunate to be able to get Ross Blacklock. This is a guy that really was a productive player his last year there at TCU, overcame some adversity there. Really good guy, and going to really add to our front. And then from there, we were able to draft some other guys that we think can come in and produce and help. And we're looking forward to working with them when we're able to get back, on the field with these guys.
Coach, talking about a good player, man. You made a lot of headlines in the offseason, which we're still in the offseason. One of the biggest trades and one of the best receivers in the game, DeAndre Hopkins, gets traded to the Cardinals. You get David Johnson. You get Brandon Cooks, you got Randall Cobb. How is this offense going to change, and how is it going to look now that you got these new pieces offensively for Deshaun Watson?
Yeah, look, every roster move involves a lot of different thoughts. DeAndre Hopkins is a great player for us. He's going to be a great player in Arizona. We just felt like at that point in time, just like every roster move that we've made, we felt like that was the best move for the team. Of course, that all has to play out. We all know we've got to go out on the field and win. When we're able to get back out there and play games, we've got to prove it on the field. We all know that. But I feel like we've added some really good guys on offense. You mentioned Randall Cobb, Brandon Cooks. We've added David Johnson in that trade. Really good players that have produced a lot in their careers in the NFL. And, really our offense is the philosophy is to spread the ball around. Obviously throw it to the guy who's open, run the football, be balanced. We've got a great young quarterback in Deshaun Watson. Our football team's excited about where we are right now. We're really excited, really chomping at the bit to be able to get back to work like every other team in the league.
With the roster moves and when you move great players, we saw it happen in New England this offseason with Tom Brady and other players. There's criticism, Coach. For a coach and GM that has to make these important moves that sometimes the outside world don't understand, I guess the advice would just be patient, let things play out, and watch me work, basically.
Yeah, look, I think it's the NFL is such a important part of not only the sports scene but everything that's going on in the country right now. I thought the draft was unbelievable, the way that it showed our league, and look, the media is a huge part of our league. They're the conduit to the fans, and sometimes within teams, speak for our team, the Texans, tough decisions have to be made, and feel like really, really well thought out decisions, decisions that are all about the team. And you're right, Willie, like, you played so many years and, had such a great career. That in the end, it's all about winning on the field. We've got to let it play out.
All right, Coach, with the current situation, everybody's been quarantined. So you've been seeing people playing with puzzles. Some guys and family members been taking up baking and cooking. TikTok is a favorite. I know you've been moved out to the porch by the wife. What are some of the things you've been doing, man, during quarantine? Some fun and different things you've been doing.
Well, it's definitely a chance to reconnect with the family. You're right. Colleen moved me back out to the back patio when we're working and things like that. But we also have a little hoop court back out here. So we bring the kids out here every night. We play a little horse. And for me, anybody that's seen me play hoop knows that that's not very good. So they're winning the battle there. I think for me personally, Willie, just being able to help my wife with my oldest son has been, really given me, again, a lot of perspective on everything. And, anybody that is the parent of a special needs child knows that, that's a 24/7 job. So just being able to help with that and just, again, the respect that I have for my wife and what she does every day with my son, Jack, just being able to pitch in is something that's brought a lot of perspective to me.
Well, that's special, Coach. And we appreciate you, man, coming on the show. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Willie. Always great to talk to you. I appreciate you having me on the show. Thank you.
Awesome stuff there from Willie and Billy O'Brien. All right, so here we go, guys. Time for some draft grades presented by Lexus. Coach Billick and Steve Smith Sr. are back in here. And, Coach, I'm going to start with you. AFC South, obviously. Let's keep it there. Who helped themselves the most in the draft this year?
Well, I think you said exactly right. Who helped themselves the most? I think it was the Indianapolis Colts. Now, clearly, Houston and Tennessee are going to be the teams to beat. But when you start with the Phillip Rivers, got the big receiver in Pittman. I love moving up and getting the running back, Taylor from Wisconsin. I think he's going to be a great fit for Phillip Rivers to run the ball. Jacob Eason, the quarterback from Washington, a good future look, maybe fill in behind Phillip Rivers. Similar personality in terms of his drive. So I don't know if they've really closed in on Houston, Tennessee, but I think clearly they've done the best job overall, and they've looked for the future as well with Eason. This is a guy who kind of had the personality like a Phillip Rivers, and for him to come in and kind of learn behind him, Phillip Rivers clearly on the back end of the career. I think they took care of the immediate needs with Pittman and Taylor and look to the future with Eason at quarterback. So I think they've made the biggest moves in the offseason has Indianapolis.
the best thing that's going to be available for Phillip Rivers to get more comfortable is running the ball. They have a strong offensive line. They have Marlon Mack, who runs between the tackles and the guards exceptionally well. However, when he's not healthy, they need another guy to get in and fill that gap. But when he is healthy, and so what I really love is Jonathan Taylor from Wisconsin to give them the opportunity to run that football and let things come to Phillip. Even though he's a veteran, he still needs to get comfortable, and that's why I love the Colts as well.
Yeah, and Steve, you mentioned it, that strong offensive line. They also drafted another offensive lineman, so just continuing to build on their strength there. And I'm sure Phillip Rivers absolutely loves to see that happening with his new team in the Colts. Thank you, guys. We'll talk to you soon. And speaking of quarterbacks with on new teams, Andy Dalton is one of them. And look, he signed a deal worth $3 million. Dak Prescott's franchise tag, well, yeah, it's worth 10 times that number. So why are people assuming there's going to be drama in Dallas? Cash relief to support 6 nonprofit organizations serving those most in need across the nation. So now more than ever, you know what people don't want to do? And you know who doesn't have to do it? Andy Dalton, the former Bengals quarterback and Houston native, lives in the Dallas area in the offseason, so pretty convenient when he signed with the Cowboys. But what does this all mean for their franchise quarterback Dak Prescott? Our Jane Slater has the latest.
Andy Dalton is not replacing Dak Prescott. Now, I know it makes for interesting headlines and sports talk, but talking to sources close to both Andy Dalton as well as those inside the building, they tell me that Prescott is still their franchise guy. Now, they haven't had any meaningful conversations with he or his team since they used that exclusive franchise tag on him, but I'm told this move is simply new head coach Mike McCarthy putting more value on that backup position. Keep in mind, in this year's draft, they went and picked up 7th rounder Ben DiNucci out of James Madison. Now, like the draft and getting CeeDee Lamb, the Cowboys also didn't expect Dalton would fall to them. They stayed in touch with his agent ahead of his release, and then I'm told his agent reached back out to the Cowboys to let them know they were the most appealing by virtue of his offseason home in the DFW area and the uncertainty of training camp and next year's season. Think of Dalton as the Cowboys' $3 million insurance policy, one they hope they don't have to use.
Thank you, Jane. So, Coach and Steve back in here. At this point, Coach, what message do you think the Cowboys are sending Dak Prescott by signing Andy Dalton, if there even is a message at all?
Oh, I think the message is we think we're pretty good. I mean, Jane said it. They picked up a valuable veteran presence at quarterback at the backup position. If something, God forbid, should happen to Dak Prescott, they've got a proven veteran on a team that's going to run the ball, play pretty good defense, that thinks they're pretty good, that they can keep going. So they're putting value in the backup quarterback position. I don't think this is going to threaten Dak Prescott. It's certainly not going to motivate him anymore. He's got plenty of motivation. And Andy Dalton is a classy guy. I don't think it's going to be a tough room. So I think it's a great pickup at a veteran backup quarterback on a team that's pretty darn good.
I agree with you, Coach. It's a one-year deal. It's not a multi-year deal. And Andy Dalton is a veteran who is not a threat to Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott is the future of the Dallas Cowboys, along with Ezekiel Elliott, Amari Cooper, and now CeeDee Lamb, and then Michael Gallup. He's just one of many guys. And also, Andy understands what it takes to be a quarterback long-term in this NFL league. However, he's no longer a starter anymore, so they need a veteran that can help Dak continue to move along and be that franchise quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys.
I think it was surprising for some that he didn't sign with maybe Jacksonville, considering Jay Gruden is down there, who the two had a relationship from when they were together in Cincinnati. But let's stick with the quarterbacks here and go to Chicago. It's a little bit of a dicier situation there at this point. We learned the Bears are not picking up Mitch Trubisky's fifth-year option. He finished last season towards the bottom of the league in a lot of different passing categories, including yards per attempt, passer rating, passing touchdowns. So GM Ryan Pace said last month that Trubisky and Nick Foles will compete for the starting job this year. So, Steve, look, it's obviously an open competition. Who do you think is going to be the Week 1 starter for the Chicago Bears?
It will be Mitch Trubisky's job to lose. However, when you look at Matt Nagy and you look at Nick Foles, they have a history. Long before Chicago, when he was in Kansas City, Nick Foles, Matt Nagy was on the coaching staff. When they went off to the Super Bowl run with the Eagles, he became the MVP. Matt Nagy was on that staff. So Matt Nagy is very comfortable and envisions, if Mitch Trubisky does not take that step this year throughout the season, that he can envision Nick Foles running that offense the way he's envisioned this offense to be ran and not have his job on the line. His job is on the line, and he is not willing to give his young quarterback an opportunity to make him jobless. Hey, it's hard out in these streets on the unemployment line, especially if it's virtually applying for unemployment as well.
Yeah, this can go south a lot of ways because no matter which way you go, first off, because of the unique offseason we're going to have, what's training camp going to be like, Mitchell Trubisky needs to be the guy to start, because if you go with Nick Foles and it doesn't go well, how do you go back to Mitch Trubisky and say, okay, now we can win with you? If he goes with Mitch Trubisky and it doesn't go well, he goes to Nick Foles. Again, it better go well, or like Steve said, it's going to be a tough time for Matt Nagy. If you go with Foles, and all of a sudden now you have to go back to Mitchell Trubisky. If he doesn't do well, it validates, yeah, you're not very good at quarterback and it's going to cost you your job. If he does do well, then it's, well, why did you replace this guy in the first place? So for Matt Nagy, there's a lot of ways this cannot turn out well.
Yeah, and Nick Foles, too, he has history with Chicago. I mean, look, the last time he was there was the double doink game. So, it wasn't great for Bears fans, but Nick Foles, he's under contract now through 2022, and obviously that experience that he has with Matt Nagy that Steve talked about in both Kansas City and with the Eagles in Philly. So we will see how that whole situation plays out. We're just showing you this one more time.
From around the league.
A big-time defensive addition. This is a guy who can help them win now.
NFL Now, tomorrow at 1 on NFL Network.
Yesterday, the NFL lost a legend, an absolute boss. When the league's winningest head coach, Don Shula, died at 90 years old. Shula accomplished so much in those 9 decades on earth, including leading the NFL's only perfect team, the 72 Dolphins. Tributes have poured in from all over the place, including right there in Atlanta, where the Falcons lit up Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Dolphins colors to honor the late, great head coach. And joining us now is one of his former players and current VP of Football Operations, Troy Vincent. Troy, thank you for joining us. I'm sorry for your loss. I'm sorry that we have to talk under these circumstances right now. But what did Shula mean to you? As the 7th overall pick when you were drafted, that was the highest of any of Shula's eras when he was with the Miami Dolphins. So you were a big part of that. What did he mean to you?
Well, one, we lost a giant yesterday, as you referenced. Just a great man, great individual, great father, grandfather, great-grandfather. He took a chance on me. I didn't know what to expect coming out of the draft. And the Miami Dolphins, actually, I had spoke to Coach Shula when during the draft time when the 3rd pick was up. And I didn't know that he and his son David Shula, who was the head coach with the Bengals, they were negotiating a trade. And I'm like, okay, the 3rd pick's up. Why am I on the phone with the Dolphins? Because the Dolphins have the 7th pick, and I'm not going to land there. I'm going to go before that. And ended up in Miami. And from the time he picked me up, Colleen, I'll just share this with you. I have just one, my most memorable story. I have many, but this is, so Coach Shula and Stu Weinstein picked me up in a Crown Victoria at Miami-Dade Airport. And as we're driving back to St. Thomas, where the time the Dolphins we were practicing, he looks in the back seat as we get a little bit closer to the university, and he says, Troy, he has this funny accent. Hey, let me tell you, I can only, now don't take this out of context, but I'll just share this with you. I can only protect you for about 2 years. And I'm looking at him, I'm like, protect me. Like, where am I going? What are you talking about, protecting me? And he says, unless you become a student of this game, unless you totally commit yourself, because you're a phenomenal athlete, but I can only hide your athletic ability for 2 seasons. And then people will take total advantage of you if you don't become a complete football player. And that was the only coach that ever said that to me in all of my life, but it meant so much. And as he was pulling into the parking lot, he says, I want you to go, and we have a gentleman, we have a veteran on the team by the name of John Offerdahl. If you want to be a pro, I need you to spend time with John Offerdahl. His number is 56, and you'll see him when we drop you off. That was it. I mean, he was just a great leader.
When you think back to when you played with him, Troy, and the fact that he was such a great leader, what was it like to play for him? Because he was known so much for his relationship with quarterbacks, but what was it like as a defensive player to play for him, and how was it different from other coaches? Because obviously he taught you that lesson there, and it really stood with you, but what was it like to actually play for him?
Well, it was actually quite fun because he always reminded everyone on the defensive side of the ball, we just got to make sure that Danny touches the ball enough. Like, don't give up 50 points because Danny's going to score 51 points. And he's always come into the defensive room and remind Tom Aberdeen, who was our defensive coordinator, just say, this week we just need to hold this team to 28 points. And Richmond Webb and Dan Marino will do the rest of the work. So he was fun just watching him stand back by Danny during practice with his arms folded. And then every now and then, he loved the Duper voice, and he just had his way of just getting us all to work together. And he was big on, I don't want to have 53 of the same guys. He used to always say that. I need a mixture in my locker room. And I need that blend and that melding pot of different personalities, different backgrounds, so that we can come together for one common cause, and that's to win on Sunday. And he used to always preach that. And he also was the first coach that talked to me about the difference between pain and injury. Like, he goes, no, are you hurt? Is it pain, or are you injured? I think I'm injured. Okay, well, everybody's out here injured. You got to play. And he just had that sense of humor about him where you just go, okay, this guy just tore his Achilles, and he's out here like in a scooter, coaching on the sideline. So, I mean, he was fun, phenomenal to play with, tremendous amount of respect that I have for him and what he taught me. He taught me to be a professional, and he showed that every single day in the way he approached, the way he prepared us to get ready to play on Sundays.
It was so much fun to watch you guys play on those teams. I can't even imagine what it was like for you guys. You keep saying how much fun it was. So, Troy, thank you so much for coming on today, for sharing some of these stories and memories with us. He clearly will be missed by so many.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Troy Vincent there joining us. And look, Don Shula's career, it was so much more than his winning record. But you can't tell his story without marveling at that incredible success. 347 wins, 19 playoff appearances. He was the gold standard in coaching. And as we bring in our coach on the show today, Brian Billick, Coach, I can only imagine that he affected you in a certain way. How did he influence your career as a head coach?
Yeah, I mean, just that number, that 347 wins, that's just mind-boggling. You know, for me, growing up in the 70s and 80s as a player and then eventually getting into coaching, there was no one bigger than Don Shula. And the fact that, and he wasn't necessarily, he was that offensive or defensive guru that we talk about with coaches nowadays so much, but it was just a sheer force of personality. His personality, he was going to imprint on his team. He was going to lead by that leadership. My only really interaction as a coach, and it was something I'll always remember, it was 1994. I was with Minnesota. I was the offensive coordinator. And we're playing the Minnesota Vikings in Minneapolis. And I'm standing on the field, and across from the field is Don Shula and Dan Marino. And my quarterback's Warren Moon. So I got 3 Hall of Famers. And I got to tell you, I was awestruck. I remember Warren kind of bust my chops a little bit going, hey, can you call a play today, or are you just going to sit and stare at Marino and Shula? And I said, no, that's pretty much it. This one's going to have to be on you because, and it was a heck of a game. It was 38-35. Marino had it all over the field, had 3 touchdowns, but had 3 interceptions. Warren was brilliant, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Great shootout there, like I said, 38-35. But to be able to be on the field for me as an inspiring coach, and again, I keep coming back to it's hard to imagine. I mean, I'm very proud of my record in the National Football League. I was 9 years as a head coach. I had 86 wins. The man had 347 wins. That's mind-boggling in terms of what he was able to do, what he represents in the industry, and it was fortunate. I got a chance to visit with him later on in the career when I was with the network, and it was interesting. He told me that one of the things he laments, he was all about business. He just didn't want to be wired. The fact that we don't have a lot of wired segments with Don Shula, I miss that.
Yeah, he was truly a visionary coach, just based on the fact that he was building his teams around the players and the strengths that they had. He was adapting. I mean, the integrity that he had and the respect for the game, I think, is something that everyone could strive for out there, whether it's in sports or just in life in general. So Don Shula, an icon and an all-time great, gone at 90 years old. Magna cum laudes, but let's focus right now on the NFC and who our players only have slated as the best offense in the conference.
What's up, guys? I'm Real Mike Robb. I'm here with Willie McGinnis, a guy who knows how to get after quarterbacks, and then our resident quarterback, and David Carr. And guys, we're talking best offenses in the NFC. David, I'll start with you.
This is tough, man. You just took Tom Brady and put him in the NFC, so that's difficult. But and they got a ton of weapons. I'm going to go with the Saints, though, because of the longevity that Sean Payton and Drew Brees have had. They got Alvin Kamara, you got Taysom Hill still, you got Michael Thomas. I mean, they just have a load of weapons. He knows where to go with the football. Until Drew Brees starts showing that he's declining physically big time, I still have to go with them. They're excellent.
You don't think he showed? You don't think he showed no decline?
A little bit, yeah, a little bit, but I don't think it's as much as like maybe a Peyton Manning towards the end of his time in Denver.
Right.
I don't think he showed that. I think he still has the ability to get the ball out, find the open guy, and then Sean Payton's just so brilliant at mixing it up on the offensive side and putting guys in position to make plays. You don't necessarily have to make big Patrick Mahomes type throws for him to be successful. So I'm still going to say the Saints until I see something different, but there's definitely some exciting football teams in the NFC.
Yeah, David, that's a good one, man. The Saints are one of the most productive offenses. Then when you add Emmanuel Sanders to that offense now,
exactly.
Things are going to change a little bit. Let's just say giving Sean Payton more weapons. But for me, I got to go with one of the teams that's in the division, and that's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Listen.
Willie, come on, man.
Mike, listen, man. Listen to what I'm telling you.
I know your homie's there now. I know that. I know Tom's there, but come on, Willie. Really? Come on.
Feel me out.
Okay.
Feel me out. They were already productive. They already had one of the top offenses with Jameis Winston. Now you get a guy who's not going to turn the football over, who they're going to craft the offense around him. And guess what? Why don't we bring Gronk out of retirement and get him ready and pair him with O.J. Howard, another tight end that could be really productive, that they'll find ways to use. Chris Godwin, all he is a receiving touchdown machine. Mike Evans, nobody can stop him, a big threat down the field. They'll go and add a running back. This offense is going to be something that you see change from week to week. It's not going to be predictable. It's going to be customized around these guys' skill set and what Brady does best. And to protect him, let's just go out and draft a left tackle, okay, with Tristan Wirfs to make sure that his blind side is corrected. I'm telling you guys, listen, I know Brady's meeting with Byron Leftwich, and these guys are putting a scheme together. They're going to take what Bruce Arians liked to do, his attacking type style. They're going to attack, but they're also going to be methodical. They're going to put guys in position. They're going to find those mismatches. They're going to do what Brady's been doing for years, and that's picking teams apart. It's not always about the big play anymore. It's about making sure you take care of the football and you score points on drives and you get ahead. When you get ahead, Now, Todd Bowles and that defense can play a little bit better. So I know that the 49ers were in the Super Bowl and they got better. And I know there's a lot of good teams in the NFC. But just watch what happens with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers now that Gronk and Brady is there.
Yeah, guys, I would also like to throw in there the Dallas Cowboys, who had a great draft. They were the number one offense in the NFL last year. And also the Minnesota Vikings. You got that running back, Dalvin Cook, in a contract year, guys. So time will tell if these best offenses in the NFC can win a championship.
Thank you, guys. So we just heard them mention the Bucs, the Saints, the Cowboys, the Vikings. What say you, Steve Smith? What is the best offense you think in the entire NFC?
Well, you look at it, you have to go with the San Francisco 49ers. Look at how many points they're averaging per game, almost 30 points per game. Look how they're running the ball, and they're holding on to the ball, so that allows that Kyle Shanahan offense to have a ton of explosive plays. And when you're in top 2, 3, and 4, and 5 category of scoring points, running the ball, being efficient, that equals out to you going to the Super Bowl. And that's why the San Francisco 49ers are the teams that people are afraid of.
Okay, so let's kick it out to the entire NFL. Coach, which is the best offense in the league? It's the Chiefs, isn't it?
Yeah, well, you could make a case for that, but the two best teams in the league, the two best offenses in the league are Kansas City Chiefs and the Baltimore Ravens. Kansas City explosive. The Baltimore Ravens, they just beat you to death. 34, 35, 36 minutes time of possession. You go 3 and out in the first to start the game, you may not see the ball for the first quarter. So, yeah, I think these are going to be the two teams we're going to watch both offensively and through the entire season.
Well, good luck to all the defensive coordinators out there, and good luck to Coach Billick, who's moving. I threw some shade his way earlier in the show, and that's why his background looks